Hello, art historians. We're taking a look at our first of our Impressionism works of art today. This is going to be number 6. Impressionism is your late 19th century painting style conveying the impression of the effects of light. Impressionism was all about how light changes on whatever you're displaying over time. And to do that, many Impressionism artists went out into the nature, went out into the outdoors to follow and watch how the effects of light changed over time. So you'd be there at early in the morning and then later in the day, and you would paint 2 different images of that same work of art, but seeing how the light changes it. Pause and get 6 and 7 for your vocabulary. Take down any Impressionism notes that you need on page 4. We're specifically looking at how the subject choices of the Impressionist artist mattered, and then of course the sensation, the impermanence, the fleeting moment was expressed in their art. So light and color theory are the 2 most important things that come out of the Impressionists. We have our acronym, which you definitely want to write down, which is ELBO. ELBO stands for environment and how the environment is going to change over time. Light and how light will change over time in that environment. Brushstrokes are meant to be visible. They're meant to be seen and show part of the work. And then we know that they're going to be outdoors doing that in plein air, like we talked about. And then also too, how the weather may change. You see this series of works that's done by Monet over time here. You can see the haziness on the one on the far left. So that maybe is the fog rolling in. And so you can see how that matters. Challenge question. Which work of architecture is shown in Monet's series? We actually covered this one, and it is a work that's on a river, an important river in London. Take a second and answer that. Here's your ID for card number 117. This is called the St. Lazare Station. It's done by the artist Claude Monet, the epitome of Impressionism art, and it is made in 1877, oil on canvas. Pause and get down your ID. All right, so take a look at what we're seeing here. We see a very smaller painting, 2.5 by 3.5 feet. It's meant to be a modern day interpretation of a landscape. So while it doesn't show the nature, it's meant to show a bit of the industrialization that's going on in Paris at this time. We see a train that's pulling into the station under kind of a triangular roof, and the steam directs your eyes around. You especially see those billowing parts that are coming out of the train. That really matters. And then look at the gradation in light. You can see some light coming through the train station roof. You can see light in the background. We do have perspective here. And that's shown with the orthogonals from the train's roof for sure, and then also the train tracks and the reflection on the floor. And this does kind of create kind of the feeling that, yes, this is happening in a realistic atmosphere. The emphasis here, again, as all of our Impressionist works, is the color. Plain pastel tones, and it's the effects of the steam and the light, not really the train or the figures. So like you can see the figures, most of them don't have faces that are fully modeled or shaded or anything like that. The train even too is somewhat minimized. It's more so how does light affect the train on that particular day, moment, time, whatever it may be. Okay. Some content to look at. The gritty texture reflects the industrial modernism. It represents the upper class who are able to travel to Paris from the countryside to work. We see more and more people being able to have recreation time. And so they're leaving Paris to go to the countryside for the weekend, their countryside home, and then they're coming home back to do their work in Paris. Monet's works lack traditional lines or contours. Again, we don't see the emphasis is not the people and the modeling in the face. It's more so how is light playing at this particular moment. The figures are not important. Pause and get down your form and content, or highlight what you find pertinent. What is Monet's goal here in making this work of art, the Gare Saint Lazare? He is trying to establish himself as an important French artist. He's also trying to show Paris as it's industrializing, as it's changing. If you think back to those stone breakers making the city streets, train stations, and having more kind of accessibility to the countryside was all part of that. And so he wants to do that, show that industrialization, proud of it, and also show the effects of light over time. He has several series in this series of this train station, and this train station does still exist today in Paris, and it was actually the actual train station that Monet would take to his countryside chalet. Okay, so most of Monet's famous works were really in nature, like water lilies, haystacks, all series done at different times of the day. But this stands out because it does reflect a little bit of the industrialization of Paris, so that's important to know about this particular work. It was exhibited at the Impressionist exhibit of 1877, again, separate from the Salon. This was not the first Impressionist exhibit. Impressionists had put on other exhibits. I think the first one was in 1874, and it had a work that's the work that's above Monet here, which was called Impression Sunrise. And this is the painting that gives the name and the style to the artistic movement. Again, the idea being that it's not a full sunrise or a realistic sunrise, but it's the impression of a sunrise, right? Monet, he lives in a province outside of Paris, and he commutes into Paris via that very train station that you see in your work of art. The station was a symbol of modernity, and it also showed the industrialized commuter railways, and part of that it was important to Monet. The roads and the train stations of Paris had recently been renovated and modernized under Baron Haussmann and his large roads, his causeways. Monet himself was born in Paris in 1840, and he showed an early talent for art, but he struggled for many years while developing this style. He would go on to be probably the most consistent in the philosophy of Impressionism, and he stays that way throughout his time frame, especially as it applies to plein air or landscape paintings. He dies at 86 with over 2,500 paintings, drawings, and pastels attributed to him. So he was very prolific throughout his lifetime. What could we compare to the Saint Lazare train station? Maybe also has his Paris in the background with Liberty leading the people. So a different depiction of Paris at a different moment. And then we also have The Slave Ship by Turner. I told you that Turner was ahead of his time. Turner is showing his work of art with a lot of what Impressionism will become here. And then you also have a good atmospheric perspective background with Chairman Mao and Route to An Yuan. On your multiple choice sheet, go ahead and pause and try and answer this question. In the Saint Lazare station, Claude Monet chose a railway station as his subject, consistent with the Impressionist interest in. Pause and try and give an answer as to why. Impressionism was known for being in nature, but still observing the environment was the most important part of it. So this best answers our question here. I would say probably the best distractor is, yeah, definitely not reproduction. He had to do them all by hand, and not elevating representations of labor. That's our Courbet, like we just learned about with realism. Maybe equating commercialization, but he's not saying that. He's not saying like, oh yeah, the fact that we're more commercialized means we can sell more paintings, right? So that wouldn't work. On your multiple choice paper again, go ahead and answer question number 5. The painting shown can be described as impressionist because of its. All right, the right answer is D. He's not eliminating illusionistic depth. We still see depth in the work of art, and you can see this is actually a different version of the Gare Saint Lazare. So you can see maybe at a different time, there's not as much lighting. The smog is kind of overtaking everything. It's not a depiction of domestic life. There's not disharmony in the colors. The colors are working together, and so he's definitely capturing a transitory moment here. A transitory here just means like it's fleeting. The moment is past. Get down any notes that you need, watch the video again if you need, and thanks for listening to number 116, Gar St. Lazare.